we need fuel. Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Project Auto YouTube channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. And in today's video, as you might have seen by the title, in the previous upload, we talked about the 5 things that I love about my 2018 Dodge Challenger. And you know what? Now it's only appropriate for us to talk about the 5 things that I dislike / hate, whatever word you want to use. Hate's kind of strong, so we'll just use dislike about this Dodge Challenger. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty guys, so the first thing that I dislike about this Dodge Challenger is its transmission. So let me clarify. It's going to be kind of hard to do this on camera, but if you notice, it was kind of a long shift out of first gear there. So let me just kind of explain as we kind of cruise around. So if you're familiar with Dodge products back from the late 90s, early 2000s, especially from what I remember, the Dodge, the first, excuse me, the second generation Dodge Ram pickups, they weren't known for the most reliable transmissions. The transmissions were garbage. You know, they went out fairly early, yada, yada, yada. So Dodge has never really been known as the most reliable when it comes to automotive transmissions. But in this case, so with this car, I'm not dissing this transmission at all. It is very responsive. It is very quick, especially under heavy acceleration. I love the fact that these paddle shifters, or even manually shifting down here, the transmission shifts just like that. It responds quickly. And it will tell you that if the RPMs are too low or your speed is not high enough and you want to go into a higher gear, it will say that the shift is not allowed. So it is fairly smart and kind of dummy proof. We're going to wait for this light to change here. I can't hardly see it. Okay, so there we go. But what I want, the thing that I dislike about this transmission is it is very clunky. With low speeds, driving through town, you can kind of hear clunks as it shifts, or when you let off the accelerator pedal. When you go to accelerate, it's kind of jerky, and sometimes the shifts are a little rough, you know, at low speeds. That's really my only complaint with this particular transmission. Now this vehicle is a 2018. It's got 72,000 miles on it, so you know, it's not brand new right off the showroom floor. So I have not driven a brand new Dodge Challenger, so if anybody out there with one you know, can confirm or deny those issues, maybe it's an issue with this particular car. But that's really my only complaint with the transmission. It's just very clunky at low speeds. Sometimes it feels like driving a manual. When you go to hit the gas after you've let off to slow down to make a turn, and you go to hit that gas again, it's kind of like a little jerk, almost like you're coming off the clutch and, you know, trying to shift a gear. But I want to show you the paddle shifters here and how quickly this responds. So there it is. As soon as I hit it, it downshifted. Same thing again, instant. And then same thing on this side. One click, instant, instant, instant. So I will say, you know, it is very responsive in that aspect, but I just wish it was a little bit more fine-tuned and not so clunky at low speeds. And that's just a normal mode. All right, so moving on to the second thing that I dislike about my Dodge Challenger is the quality of some of the materials on the interior. The interior of a car is supposed to be one of the most comfortable places to be, because this is where you spend all of your time when you're driving your vehicle. Now, the seats, absolutely amazing. The seats are very comfortable. The leather has held up very well over these, you know, last several years. In 72,000 miles, the leather has held up very well. But the materials that I'm talking about, they are soft touch, but they just don't feel all that nice. They don't feel high quality. In my opinion, the biggest point of this is the center console area here. It's just very, I mean, you can see, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it's loose. It dings up very easily. You know, you can push on it and hear stuff creaking. You know, up here, I get weird rattling noises every once in a while from somewhere up in this general area. I've also had it in the rear. So some of these materials I think were cheaply made, and they cut corners a little bit. But you know, it is what it is, and that's what you get. Alrighty, so we are almost to the house. I'll go ahead and talk about the third thing, and then the last two we'll have to wait until we get home to talk about those. But the third thing is the 8.4 Uconnect screen. So the Uconnect system is a very, very nice, intuitive system. A lot of features, fairly easy to operate. But there's one downside to these particular screens. All right, so the one downside to these screens, and I don't know if you can see this on camera, but you can see this outline where this top half looks a little bit lighter and this bottom half looks a little bit darker. What this is called is screen delamination, and 98% of the Challengers, Chargers that use this 8.4 inch screen have all had this problem. Unfortunately, it's never been a recall, but this is what happens. So Dodge, I did a little bit of research on this. Dodge, you know, unfortunately used a low quality adhesive when manufacturing these screens. And it may not even be Dodge, whoever manufactured these screens. So when they use that low quality adhesive, what happens is, from the sun, the heat, the weather, the cold, all that stuff, that adhesive lets go. And what happens is this outer layer separates itself from the digitizer, which is the part that senses your touch, thus rendering the screen kind of, I wouldn't say useless. What happens is the screen will kind of get a mind of its own. So random buttons will be pushed and you really can't use it. Excuse me. I've had that happen with this exactly one time since I have purchased this vehicle. And honestly, it hasn't happened since. So I am going to ride it out until it no longer works at all, and then I will replace the screen. It won't be out, you know, won't be in warranty. I'll have to pay for it out of pocket, but it is what it is. And in some cases, I've even heard of the adhesive that was used turning into a liquid and then dripping down onto the hardware that is behind the dash here. So that can cause issues as well. But that was a big fail for Dodge, and you know, saving a couple of bucks on some adhesive probably wasn't the smartest move. But let's move on to the fourth thing that I dislike about my Dodge Challenger. All right, so for the fourth thing that I dislike about my Dodge Challenger, and yes, we are underneath the hood. No, it's not the engine. This is a fantastic engine. I've had no complaints out of it. But what I do dislike is its oil filter placement. Most auto manufacturers mount it on the bottom side of the engine. So you go underneath, you unscrew it, you pull it down, and it drains the oil. And it's like a metal casing with the filter down inside. Not in this case. This is a little bit different. So right down here, that is your oil filter housing right there. So what you would do is you would pull this plastic cover off using a socket on that top nut there. Pull that off, and then there's the paper filter that is actually down inside of there. So you actually have to touch the paper filter to replace it. Not a big fan of that. A couple of reasons. One, when you go to pull it out of here, if you don't have rags laid down, you drip oil all over your engine base. You have to clean that up. And the second thing is it's messy. You know, you have to touch that paper filter and do all that stuff. So kind of a bad design in my opinion. I prefer it to be, you know, the normal style that we're all used to, up underneath the motor, super easy, done, over with. But in this case, you have to change, when you change oil on this car, you have to go underneath, drain the oil, then you have to come back up on top and remove that filter. I'm not sure if that's the same on all of the 3.6s, you know, in the Dodge Caravans and the other Chrysler vehicles, but at least in this case, that's where it's at, and I don't like it. Alrighty guys, so for the fifth and final thing that I dislike about my Dodge Challenger, we're gonna have to wrap this up because it's getting ready to start pouring. But for the fifth and final thing I dislike about this Dodge Challenger is its door handles. So let me go ahead and explain this. So most cars now, newer vehicles you're used to, you grab up like this and you pull, or you can kind of you can pull that way. But anyway, they're pull handles, right? Dodge, even on the Chargers all the way up to 2023, still used the old style lift handles. I'm not a fan of these. You know, yeah, it gives it that old school look because older vehicles, that's what they used. But we're in a modern day here. I think Dodge should have, you know, utilized the pull handles. One thing that's a problem with these in the wintertime, if this car sits outside, which I hope it wouldn't, mine doesn't, but if it sits outside, ice gets over this, you got to pull on this, and you're going to break that door handle. Not to mention if the door is frozen shut, when you're lifting up like this, you really don't have that much leverage, whereas if you have your hand like this and you go ahead and pull it, you can give it more leverage and open that door. So not a huge fan of those. I do like the fact that they still included a keyhole, but still I think it would have looked better with the newer style pull handles. But other than that, guys, that's all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm going to jump off here, pull this thing in the garage, get in the house because it is going to start storming. But if you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you're stopping by for the first time and you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.